everybody? So we're back in Matthew. We are in chapter 5. We're going through this. Jesus is teaching on lust now. And let's jump in. So you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell. So Jesus isn't mincing words here. He's definitely saying that there is a judgment, there is a day coming, there's a hell out there that is ready for you. And one thing I do want to point out again here is that when he says you have heard it said, Jesus is not attacking the Old Testament or the prophets. In fact, just a couple sections before this, he actually says in verse 17, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. And this is all in the same teaching section. Jesus would have prefaced all of this with getting at the intent of what the Old Testament and the law was about, not destroying it, not tearing it down, not breaking it and bringing something completely new. But he's saying this is actually radical. Radical means like radish, a root vegetable. It means getting back to the root. So he's getting back to the root of the law, which I believe goes all the way back to creation. When God created everything, he created his natural order and law. And one of the reasons that I think that Genesis is so important and that we overlooked at all the symbolism that's going on there. So again, he's making a point of calling out false teaching and setting the record straight. And one thing about these sections that really stands out is basically that nobody's getting out of this alive. It doesn't matter if you're just angry with somebody. It doesn't matter if you're, lusting after somebody in your heart, but you don't act on it. These conditions of the heart are symptoms of the actual disease, and the actual disease is sin. So Jesus is basically saying, even if you think you've never done, a bad action, that your intent matters, and it's still in your heart. So no one's getting out of this alive. I mean, these are just smack-down sermons, lessons that Jesus is giving. The law is good, and you cannot live up to it. That's what he's saying. Even if you look at a woman with lustful intent, you have sinned. So every teenage boy out there that reads that pauses and thinks, what does this mean for my life? I mean, no joke. If your right eye causes you to sin, you should gouge it out. Because it's better for you to lose a member than for your body to be thrown into hell. Is your right eye the cause of sin? Is that the point of these sermons? Is that you should just cut off your eye and then your hand, and then if you accidentally steal, somebody should cut your hand off? Is that the intent? What is Jesus actually getting at here? When I asked that question, a couple things came to mind. How serious is it to be faithful and appreciate your wife? How serious is that? There's teaching about divorce coming up and oaths, things like that. But how important is it? So there's an ordered way to express our love, affection, all these different things. There's a way to do that properly and improperly. And when we're doing that improperly, we're actually structuring our heart in a way that devalues women, that devalues ourselves, that devalues our future relationship with our spouse, with our wife or husband. Like all of these things are kind of tied up here. It is you can go really deep on this one. And it really impresses how important it is to posture your heart properly in relationship to the other sex, because that's part of God's ordered creation as well. And the other is the body part, the part that's causing you to sin. I mean, if you're supposed to gouge it out, is that what he's saying? Gouge out your eye, cut off your hand? Or is he getting at something else? Is he making a point by using this very extreme language? And I would say that really, if you think about it, it's not your eye or your hand that's causing you to sin. It is your heart. Now, one important thing I think about Matthew is we have to remember that from our perspective, we're reading the Bible and we understand that Jesus came and died to give us a new heart. We can die with Jesus and he gives us a new heart. We can be baptized, a symbol of death and rebirth. Jesus dies and is resurrected. He's calling us to do the same thing. But that hasn't been revealed to this audience. So when they hear these sermons that if you're angry, you're going to hell. If you're lustful, you're going to hell. All of these people would have been like, what do I do then? And he's saying, gouge out your eye, cut off your hand. Wow, what? Like the audience would have heard this and been like, you're crazy, right? Who can circumcise your heart? Who can remove your heart and give you a new one? When you give your heart to God through Jesus Christ, when you accept him as your Savior, you get a new heart. You get a new way of thinking about things. Baptism is literally, again, the symbol of that death and rebirth. And hell is real. This idea of judgment. Whether you believe in hell as like this place of eternal fire, lake of fire, whatever imagery you want to use, there is a coming judgment and nobody's meeting the mark. And then these series of sermons are just left here to give you the impression that nobody's getting out of this alive. So that's the section on lust. Next up, we have divorce and oath. So we'll jump into that. If you like this, put down below what stood out to you about this lesson, what you liked about this section. If it does make you think that Jesus is being pretty harsh, or you think that he's not, let me know. Put like and subscribe to catch all these as they're coming out. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one. All right? Peace.